What if I told you that for about a third of all college students, their entire academic future is basically decided in the first 9 months? It's pretty wild to think about, but that's the reality of the first year of college. Today, we're going to dive into some really incredible research that gets into the psychology behind why some students succeed and others don't, and it uncovers some major equity gaps that help determine who actually makes it to graduation day. And our guide through all of this is Dr. Ronnie A. Rodas. The thing about his research is that it's not just a bunch of data points on a page. He actually weaves together these really powerful psychological theories with hard numbers to create a kind of roadmap for understanding and hopefully solving one of the biggest challenges in higher education right now. So let's talk about that first year. It's best to think of it less like a starting line and more like the most critical lap in a long race. I mean, it's where you set your pace, it's where the toughest hurdles pop up, and it's really where the foundation for finishing strong is either built or it crumbles. And this quote from Dr. Rodas's work just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures how much weight this so-called make or break year really carries. We're not just talking about passing a few classes. This is about building the momentum that's going to carry a student all the way across that graduation stage. Okay, so what does this make or break year look like in actual numbers? Well, the data is pretty jarring. Roughly 1 out of every 3 students who starts college doesn't come back for their second year. Think about that. That's a huge loss of talent, potential, and investment for both the students themselves and for the colleges. Now, if we really want to fix this problem, we have to go deeper than just knowing what's happening. We need to understand why it's happening. And this is where Dr. Rodas's research gives us this incredibly powerful framework, pulling from 3 key theories that really explain what drives a student to keep going. First up is something called the student integration model. And at its heart, it's all about belonging, but it's deeper than just making friends. It's about feeling connected to your classes and your professors. That's the academic integration. And it's also about feeling like you've found your community, your people. That's the social integration. You really need both. Building right on top of that is self-determination theory. This one really zeroes in on what we all need as humans to feel motivated. For students, it boils down to 3 things. Autonomy, which is that feeling of being in control of your own learning. Competence, which is the belief that, hey, I can actually do this. And relatedness, which is that sense of connection to others. And the final piece of the puzzle is the expectancy-value theory. It's actually a pretty simple but really powerful formula. Students are most likely to push through the tough times when they have a high expectation of success. Basically, they believe they can succeed, and when they place a high value on what they're doing, when they feel like it's important and worth the effort. Okay, so with those theories in mind, let's circle back to the data. Because while that 1 in 3 dropout rate is worrying enough, the real story, the one we really need to pay attention to, is that the risk of leaving college is not spread out equally at all. And this leads us right to the core issue of equity in this research. Who are the students that are most likely to get left behind in that critical first year? And the data from the study, well, it paints a really clear picture of these equity gaps. You can see there are pretty significant differences in who comes back for that second year, depending on the student's background. This just highlights how urgent it is that we create support systems that are tailored to help everyone succeed. So these numbers tell us what's going on, but they don't exactly tell us why. The next part of the research is so important because it digs into the specific things that either help students persist or, unfortunately, become major roadblocks. So what works? What actually helps students stay enrolled? Well, the research points to a few key things. A strong sense of belonging is huge. So is getting proactive academic advising and timely financial aid. And you can see here, things like having engaged professors and getting some early wins in those first big courses can create this powerful, positive momentum. And on the flip side, the things that push students to drop out are often the exact opposite of what helps them succeed. Things like financial stress, feeling like you don't belong, and just struggling to figure out how the college system even works. All of these can be huge barriers, especially when you're also trying to balance school with a job or family. All right, so understanding the problem is one thing, but the real value in this research is that it gives us concrete, actionable solutions. Dr. Rodas's work lays out a clear, evidence-based roadmap for colleges to not just identify students who might be struggling, but to actually get in there and proactively help them succeed. And these recommendations are incredibly practical. They focus on this holistic idea of student support, from bundling financial aid with helpful guidance to using what's called intrusive advising. And that just means connecting with students before they start to struggle, not waiting until it's too late. The whole goal is to create a safety net, one that catches students before they even have a chance to fall. You know, the impact of fixing these issues goes way beyond just helping one student graduate. As the research points out, when we close these equity gaps, we're doing something much bigger. We're strengthening our colleges, we're boosting economic mobility, and we are, ultimately, building a much fairer society for everyone. And that brings us right back to the central challenge, doesn't it? That first year of college is this massive fork in the road. For some students, it's a launchpad to an amazing future. But for too many others, it's a wall they just can't get over. So the question this research really leaves us with is this: how do we redesign our systems to make sure that first year is a launchpad for every single student? We've really only been able to scratch the surface of Dr. Ronnie Rodas' incredibly important research today. So if you want to dive deeper into the data, the theories, and the solutions, I really encourage you to check out the website on your screen.